This is me on my 24th birthday on my way out of an airplane. How do a person end up here? Let's move back 20 years in time. As kids, we believe we can be anything we want. But what if I went back in time and told myself as a 4-year-old that this is not the case? That, hey, as you grow older, you are gonna be put into a cage of unrealistic expectations of how you should act and who you should be. Your dreams are not gonna happen, never exist outside of your head, and be buried with you the day you die. Okay, that might be a bit hard on a 4-year-old, but what about a 19-year-old? To be fair, by this time, we've been grown-ups for at least 12 months. So shouldn't we be old enough to hear this now? That our dreams are unrealistic and out of our reach? I do believe there's an age we should stop dreaming, but only so we can start doing. I've spent the past years trying to unlearn my limiting beliefs of what's possible, to free myself from the bullshit rules of what not to do, to figure out what I really want and find the courage to go after it. Having a look at what I did on my spare time when I was younger was a great way to start.
Hallo!
Hei!
Hei, det lørdag I dag,
Maybe creating makeup videos and hair tutorials in my room isn't necessarily what I would like to do for a living now, but I've always liked to entertain and create content. Whenever I saw an opportunity to deliver a school project through video, I took my shot. I didn't study media or anything, I just liked filmmaking and telling stories. With top grades from high school, I had the freedom to pick pretty much any study I'd like to. But instead of asking myself what I would actually like to do for a living, I asked myself, what is the most prestige and challenging career path I can accomplish? So I started preparing for the selection to become a fighter pilot. Short story short, I didn't make it to pilot school. After being eliminated from the selection, I ignored all calls and cried in the shower for 2 weeks. My high school confidence and the belief of being able to become whatever I want was for the first time confronted. I didn't get to fly a F-35, but at the selection I met one of my now best friends, Emma. Meeting Emma felt like meeting myself. One of the things we have in common is that we are both big dreamers, and we started dreaming big together. This trip to LA was actually during our year of basic military service. I was serving as a video journalist for the Norwegian Home Guard at the time, but I was offered a trip to LA by the weapon manufacturer Heckler & Koch. After they had seen some of the content that I made in the military, they wanted me and my professional video crew, aka Emma, to come to LA and create content with them. This was not a part of our service, but something we arranged ourselves. It wasn't like I'd never held a gun before, but it was the first time I got paid for shooting content and bullets with my best friend at a range in Hollywood for sure. Yep, it felt surreal and weird. The taste of Hollywood made us rethink our plans for the next year as we saw that we can actually make money doing this. What started out as a 3-week vacation in Thailand became half a year of business trip. We made our own YouTube channel for travel vlogs, emailed ourselves to stays for free in exchange for content, and after some weeks we started making money on producing promo videos for resorts and activewear collections. On socials, this might look like I had a time of my life. Turned out what I dreamt about didn't feel as dreamy as I thought it would. Behind all the cool content we made, I was so insecure. I never felt good enough, not pretty enough, not interesting enough, and traveling to a new villa, new island, a new country, a new continent, it didn't change that. Wherever I went, I met myself. After half a year traveling, I went back home to Norway. Realizing that my surroundings couldn't make me happy all alone had me looking in the mirror. At this time, most of my content on YouTube was full gym workouts. Focusing on my physique felt good for a while, but as a 20-year-old living at home with my parents, of course I asked myself, what should I do with my life? I remember wondering if YouTube and Instagram was something I would outgrow, and that social media wasn't a real career path for me to choose. Hence my curiosity in human behavior and self-development, I considered studying psychology. Feeling the pressure to take advantage of my high school top grades, I applied for the PhD study in psychology. I now had a big life decision facing me. Should I say yes to my spot and become a full-time student for the next 6 years? Not to mention work as a psychologist for the rest of my life? Or should I continue walking my unpredictable path as a content creator? I asked myself the last question nearly every day for 3 years. In other words, for 3 years, I turned my back on the thought of making a living out of content creation. I'm not going to pretend like anything else. I was a restless student. At my second year, I joined a startup. Joining this startup made me feel like me again. I was in an engaged team with talented people working on a project that made room for my desire to create. I had an endless drive and didn't mind going to bed late and start working the next day before I got out of bed. I was obsessed with this project. I totally ignored the fact that when the summer had come to an end, I was now not only a full-time psychology student. I was also raising a startup, running my own freelance video business, working as a live stream host, and I volunteered as a leader in a self-development course. Teaching others about life balance and reading about burnouts for my exams felt so wrong and ironic. Even though weekly ice baths released some stress in a moment, it didn't change the fact that I was drowning. I started having difficulties breathing and felt dizzy. After failing one of my exams and crying of exhaustion in front of my friends, I finally decided to step down. I stepped down from my obligations and into the next thing that felt right for me. I moved into a sailboat. I have no idea how to sail, but I was there for the nature, the adventure. And I was inspired to bring out that vlog camera and start creating content again. I was still a student, still living in Oslo, still felt like a mess, but at least I was closer to the nature. And I was back on YouTube. I do believe hanging around with myself and having some time to reflect is healthy, to a certain level. The pandemic and lockdowns challenged me, as with everyone else, in many ways. I kinda like that everything slowed down for a while, but without being aware of it, disconnection from other people and the lack of community made me feel lonely. All this time alone and questions made me feel anxious and like there was something wrong with me. I was spoiled with amazing friends, but still I felt like I was supposed to be somewhere else, that there was another life waiting for me. This time alone also helped me learn the difference between others' thoughts and my own. I started dreaming about life outside of Oslo. I felt drawn to nature, movement, adventure. My desire for this sporty outdoor lifestyle kept growing, and then I finally decided to go for it, or at least take the first step. I wanted to learn a winter sport so I could be more active outside. And I'm a sucker for challenges, so I wanted to try something I'd never done before. Learning how to snowboard and creating content quickly felt like the most important thing to me, which my exams suffered from. Another thing I did to be more active outside was getting a job as a dog walker once a week. I stepped up my video business as well. Even though I was a psychology student living in a sailboat, I started to spend most of my time out doing freelance video jobs and tried to keep my YouTube channel posted as well. The next month I earned $20,000 only doing freelance video jobs for others, which I think is pretty cool for a 23-year-old with her own business. I was doing it again. I was paid to travel around for filmmaking in the company of another of my best friends, Kristin, which I'd also met in the military, by the way. I look back at this as one of my best seasons so far. Something about the feeling of financial freedom and independence, mostly the feeling of touching into sports and nature, but the hustle didn't feel sustainable. Even though I made some good money and felt free to do much of the things I wanted to, I was still struggling with low self-esteem, accepting myself, find my purpose and loving myself. Again, I was asking myself the somewhat hopeless question, what should I do with my life? I moved out of the sailboat and lived as a nomad for months. I stayed at Kristin's place for some weeks, couch surfing at my friend's house. As a fun fact, Aune is also one of the friends I met in the military. I kinda liked this lifestyle a bit and didn't like it. This felt a bit chaotic. Something had to go. Even though I was halfway through, I finally decided to drop out of the psychology study. And then I went for another sport that had caught my attention for the last year. A sport that included lots of falling as well, but this time I was gonna fall from 14,000 feet high. Going for the skydive license was very special to me. I was suddenly in a place where the rules I'd been playing by weren't valid anymore. Jumping out of airplanes was standard. It didn't matter if you were 20 or 40, what's in your CV. In the air, we're the same. And people are actually prioritizing having fun. Watching adults throw themselves out of airplanes is like watching 10-year-olds at a playground. They are present, having fun. There's real joy in their eyes. And real fear. This summer in Voss, I remember feeling like life has meaning again. I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel depressed. I felt real fear. I felt meaning. I felt alive. I didn't want to land my feet. What I wanted was waiting for me on the other side of fear. I got out of my own way and surrendered to the unknown, my unpredictable path as a content creator. And I started only to take advice from people who had been where I wanted to go.
Yeah, straight off, you are so talented. So this is going to be really fun. We can't wait to help you. It's going to be awesome.
I like filmmaking and telling stories, and I like to be extreme and push boundaries. This idea is just something I came up with like in lockdown 2 years ago.
So I want to get in this session, what I'd love to do.
Signing up to Team's course about how to film my own adventure was showing myself that I finally took my film project dreams seriously. I did start a 1-year personal trainer study this fall, but only because I could be flexible with my location during the year. Through this conscious choice and my steady paychecks before the summer, I had the freedom to spontaneously go join a surf course in Portugal. This week made me feel so charged, inspired, connected to myself, fearless, and I was clear on my mission. My plan was to leave Norway within a year, go live with a remote tribe without social media or any contact with modern society, and make a documentary about it. But a plan includes planning. While working on this project, I wanted to move to a place that valued nature and extreme sports as much as I did. So I decided to move to Voss. I remember telling friends I was going to move to Voss, not to mention my parents about my documentary plans. I don't blame anyone for being skeptical about my ideas, but I can't logically explain or justify everything. I just wanted to follow my own intuition. And I was afraid afraid of loneliness, afraid of anxiety, afraid of depression. But this is living by the fear of fears. If there's something I should know by now, it's that I would rather face my real fears than drown in fear of them. Moving to Voss, 10 kilometers away from the city center, no car, no friends, it was tough. Loneliness did come up on me, and I had some very anxious days. But as the spring came, I started feeling more energized and inspired for my big plans. To sell in and finance my film project, I wanted to make a pilot that showed me challenging myself and being scared, as I probably would be with a remote tribe. I didn't sit around waiting for my answers to come to me. I was at an Easter trip to the Alps with Emma and didn't even think about my film project for a week. And that's when it got crystal clear to me what to do next. Another sport of the extreme kind had caught my attention. At first, I thought that this one had to wait. Like, I already got my hands full on a full-time study, freelance jobs in different cities, weekly vlogs on YouTube, and planning my year overseas. On the other hand, I did need a good pilot to sell in my documentary, so maybe now is the perfect timing to learn this sport. I started making a mini-series about myself becoming a death diver, or a Døds World. I had someone to film my first episodes, and I did the editing myself. For those of you who follow my channel at the time, you know that I also shared my running journey after deciding I was going to participate at a 32-kilometer trail race the coming summer. What I never shared is that this race was supposed to be the start of my documentary film. My plan was to leave Norway after finishing the race, but the closer I got to the race, something about my film project idea didn't make sense. I wasn't sure if living away with a tribe for a year would give me the answers I was looking for. As I was doubting my idea, I didn't manage to get someone to be there filming me at the race day either. Another thing that didn't go to plan was my race. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. I had no idea what to do next, but I still showed up on race day. This was the last thing I had planned to do before I was gonna let go of everything I knew. I felt dizzy and started panicking. I stopped in the middle of the mountain and decided to back down. Since I had prepared myself for leaving, I had only a couple of months left in my rental apartment in Voss. I was done with my studies, no freelance jobs ahead, no plan B. Practically, I was ready to leave for my big adventure, but not emotionally. And I had no financial support for my project. My spark was gone. No motivation, no energy, tired body and mind. Didn't feel like being social or create content. And I was broke as fuck. Even though my big film project was a failure, I still had an unfinished story waiting to be told. The death diving. And my goal was qualifying to the World Championships. I'd actually given it up, but my friends helped me film and finish what I started.
Never give up.
I remember Kristin asked me if I believe that things come easy to me. And my answer was, yeah, sometimes they do. And then I realized that this was not gonna be one of those times. I'm not gonna lie. I had to ditch my smartwatch telling me how little sleep and how low on energy I was this week. I had left my body and went on autopilot as a machine to just send it. And it worked. I got qualified for the championships, which also meant that I had 5 days to learn how to do a Dutch freestyle trick. So I went to Bergen for practicing with the professionals. My second to last attempt, the landing pushed the air out of me, and I laid in the water crying. I was doubting myself and if the potential pain of failing a new attempt was really worth it. So why did I do this to myself?
Next up, we've got Helena Wien from Norway. She's just started dancing this year, and she runs a blog actually about dancing on YouTube.
No kidding.
Yeah, so she is one of, she's a fan, but also...
People who follow my journey told me that I inspired them to keep going, even though they were scared. Not only when standing on a 10-meter high platform, but for all challenges in life. I was inspiring others to fail and then try again. I felt like I had a purpose, to inspire through action. I was so proud of myself this day. I didn't make it to the top 3, but being there was a big win. I totally forgot about the facts that I had no place to live, no job, and instead of leaving Norway for my big film project overseas, I only got as far as over the mountains. As a 25-year-old living at El Mojo Dojo Casa House, aka at home with my parents / couch surfing for the 3rd time, I still felt like this time was different. Now, I didn't ask myself what I should do with my life. Instead, I asked, what feelings do I want to chase? When do I feel the most like myself? What feels natural for me to do that other people struggle with? What knowledge do I have that can help someone else? 3 months forward, I've moved back to Voss. I haven't figured everything out. Half of the time, I still don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I can't become whatever I want, but at least I'm gonna become something that I want. And this belief keeps me trying and failing and trying again.